Hey everybody, it's Christina Louise here. Welcome to Parenting for a Peaceful Home. Today I am very excited to introduce to you expert Ricky Greenwald, the founder and director of the Child Trauma Institute, a master of EMDR. We'll get into what that very powerful process is in just a moment. But before I just go on and on about this guy, I'm just going to introduce you. Hello, good morning, Ricky. How are you?
Hi. Fine, thanks. How are you?
Really excited to have you here, Ricky. So you're the founder of the Trauma Institute and the Child Trauma Institute, which are nonprofit organizations. Tell us just a little bit about what you do there at the Institute.
Well, we provide a lot of therapy. We're also developing the cutting edge of therapy focused on healing from trauma and loss. And we also do a lot of training of therapists.
That's amazing. Awesome. Awesome. And all focused around the child, or do you work with parents as well?
Well, we used to be only Child Trauma Institute, but the fact is we work a lot with parents and other adults as well. So we added Trauma Institute to our name.
Got it. Got it.
We work with everybody.
And let's just talk about what trauma is, because I know a lot of people only associate the word with, severe cases like rape or domestic violence. But I believe that, would you agree that trauma kind of extends beyond those types of situations?
Well, first of all, let's talk about those extremes. Most people have them.
Okay.
Um, even in even in rich suburbs, where people are raised right, most people have had things happen to them that really hit them hard.
Okay.
Whether that was child abuse or being exposed to domestic violence or being assaulted, or a loved one suddenly dying. Most people have this even when they were raised well. Um, and then when you add things that have a trauma-like impact, such as in many cases, significant loss, or even what we might call minor things, if any one instance could be minor but could have a cumulative effect, things like bullying, getting teased one day in school, you don't like it, but it's no big deal. But if that's your life for the year, it can have a trauma-like impact, even if one single incident wasn't that big a deal. So trauma is really, some things that happen to us that we don't like. You don't like it, but you chew on it. You go through it, you think about it, you talk about it, you laugh, you cry, you get over it, you grow from it, you become stronger. Whereas some things just hurt, maybe they get pushed aside so that they don't have to hurt so much, but then they get stuck there and they make like a wound inside. And then something else comes along, and if it happens to hit that sore spot, you get a stronger reaction than other people might think you should get, whether that's from what everybody would call a major traumatic event, or whether it's from an accumulation of individually minor events that have a similar wounding effect. Mm-hmm. And that can, I was really pleased when you asked me for this interview, because it can have so much impact on parenting. Parents who really get it and are really trying to do the right thing, something hits one of their sore spots and they become more angry than they would like to be, or more discouraged than they would like to be, or whatever it is. And it's not their fault. It's just that when something hits a sore spot, you get a stronger reaction than you wish you had.
Mm-hmm. So I'm getting the sense that when you talk about trauma, it's flying in the face of what we hear and is promoted so often throughout our culture. There's things like, just get over it, or it happened in the past. And, what can you say around that to help people, in my opinion, forgive themselves for the fact that they're still in pain sometimes over things that happened decades ago?
Well, that just means they're human. This is how our brains work. And if you're able to push it behind the wall and you live your life and you're happy with that, it works. That's great. But if you're finding that the stuff behind the wall that makes the sore spots is interfering in some way with how you're trying to live, then it's worth doing something about it.
Mm-hmm. And how do you know? How does one put those two and twos together? How would I know if today I'm being impacted by a trauma that happened in the past?
Wow, that's a great question. Sometimes people do know, and they will say, wow, this is just like the same feeling like 20 years ago when. Other times they have no idea. And people come to us all the time saying, I'm sick of losing my temper with my kids. Can you help me with anger management?
Mm-hmm.
They just think they're angry and they don't really tie it to anything else. No, that was so long ago, that's not relevant. And yet it turns out that when they do the work to heal from what happened when they were 2 or 5 or 15 or whenever it is,
Mm-hmm.
they don't get so angry anymore.
Right.
They get the normal amount of angry for what's going on rather than the heightened amount of angry when something hits their sore spot. So people don't always connect it, and yet it always seems to be that way.
I find that as well with my clients. It's always the upsets that are going on in our lives today. If we trace that back to the root cause problem, it always seems to be in early childhood or adolescence, something that we're still tripping on. We haven't been able to chew through, as you said, that doesn't seem to be connected to what's happening in the marriage or with their children today. But when we look at it, it's always a match. It's always a match. And so I just
Yeah.
love that you've been able to soothe people's hearts and shed some light on that today
Mhm.
and let people know that it's normal and it's
Yeah.
natural and that just because something happened 20 or 30 or 40 years ago doesn't mean that it goes anywhere. In fact, I like to look at it like an analogy of if you stain your t-shirt 10 years ago and you don't break that down, process it, clean it up, right? Heal it,
Yeah.
it's still going to
Yeah.
be there. It doesn't matter that 20 years has gone by. That
Right.
stain is still there. And I think that that's what you're talking about when you talk about sore spots. Is that
Yeah.
accurate?
Yeah. That's a pretty, especially if you've kept that t-shirt wrapped up somewhere protected so it doesn't get exposed,
Yeah.
But people don't just wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to have a bad temper now.
Right.
Or I think I'm going to be depressed. It doesn't happen that way. People
Mm-hmm.
learn from experiences. People get affected from experiences. And so even if somebody tells me I've been this way for a long time, it doesn't mean they were born that way. It doesn't mean they want to be that way. It
Mm-hmm.
just means that there's some experiences that have affected them. Um, and you can do something about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I really like your approach, um, because there's no blame here, and I feel like parents who are experiencing bouts of short-temperedness or who in their opinion have made mistakes in their parenting life, that there's a process for healing and forgiving there that your institute seems to promote. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the sense I'm getting. What a valuable point of view and resource for those of us watching right now. Let's talk a little bit about what is EMDR?
Well, it stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. That's why we use the initials.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of several trauma healing methods that tap into what the brain scientists are calling memory reconsolidation, which is where you access one of these memories that wounded you. You bring it out, you activate it, you get it in your face,
Mm-hmm.
but it's done in a structured way where you get a chance to go through it from where you are today, with the guidance of a trained therapist, and kind of digest it so that it just becomes part of the past and doesn't hurt you anymore. Something you actually grow from, become stronger from.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is an amazing time in history because for the first time in history, we're able to say to people, you're not necessarily damaged for life. There's something you can do. It's an ordeal, but there's
Mm-hmm.
something you can do
Mm-hmm.
that gives you a really good chance of healing.
Yeah.
And if you look at the research, um, EMDR seems to be successful 85% of the time in one study, 90% in another study, very high success rates. Our own clinic, is similar that way. And that's new in history. There has always been healing, but there's never been this kind of systematic, structured healing that you can just go and do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
And
we're using EMDR.
mm-hmm.
That's the best of the really well-researched trauma healing methods. EMDR is recognized by every literature review internationally as being among the top treatments. And our own meta-analysis, that's a study that aggregates other studies that we're in the middle of right now, we're finding that EMDR is at least as effective as the other leading brands. It's better tolerated, meaning people can stand it. It is an
Mm-hmm.
ordeal. You're getting fewer dropouts with EMDR, and it's also more efficient than the other leading brands. So we're doing a lot of EMDR. We're also using progressive counting, PC for short. That's not as well researched, but it is already research supported. And in the 2 direct comparisons we've published so far, PC is coming out about as effective as EMDR, even better tolerated. It's not as emotionally intense, so it's not as difficult for clients, and even more efficient. So yeah, you can, people that want to do better in their lives and get over the emotional obstacles, there are ways to do this now that are quite good.
It's a very exciting time to be alive.
Yeah.
Now, do people actually have to come to the Institute to participate with your therapist? Is that what you recommend? Or is there a way to do work like this remotely?
Um, there are therapists who are trained in EMDR or PC,
Hmm.
or there's a couple of other methods around, but these are my favorites right now of the research supported ones. There are therapists all over who are doing this, and many of them are quite good. Some of them
Hmm.
aren't, some of them are, it's just like anything else.
Yeah.
We also have our own therapists, and we use a different treatment model rather than the 50-minute hour per week where you might be going for 6 months or 3 years or whatever. We use an intensive model where people come to the therapist's location. They stay in a hotel. They come to the therapist office 9 to 5. They're the only client. And they work with that therapist Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, however long it takes to get their work done.
Hmm.
This is, we didn't invent this, but we're one of the leading pioneers right now. We're the major player in this country for doing it. And I love this model. I started out doing it because I was training. I was going all over the world teaching therapists, and I couldn't tell a client, I'll see you next Tuesday at 10, because I was going to be in England or,
Hmm.
Oklahoma or something. So I started out doing it for convenience, and I ended up preferring it for a lot of reasons. I mean, imagine you take your car to the shop and the mechanic says, your tires are bald. You really shouldn't be driving around this way. Tell you what, you bring your car in once a month. I'll change one tire each month. And in
Hmm.
4 months, you'll be good to go.
Right.
Crazy, right?
Right.
And yet that's what we do in therapy because the old therapy methods were incremental approaches.
Hmm.
Work on this, come back, talk about it, work on this, come back, talk about it.
Yeah.
But now that we have these trauma healing methods, there's no reason to chop it up into little pieces. People can come now, just like taking your car to the shop or just like going in for a medical procedure. You come and you get your work done. Sometimes there's follow-up, sometimes there's not. And then you move on with your life.
Hmm. I'm a big fan of that model as well. As
Yeah,
a child who went through a lot of trauma and abuse, and was in counseling at the age of 7 and really stayed in traditional counseling for 20 years,
mhm,
versus the last 10 years of my life where I used the intensive model. I used techniques like actually did EMDR to get
yeah,
through a very severe car accident. I had post-traumatic stress disorder to the fact where I was like this when I was in a car all the
yeah,
time. And within, I would say, going once a week with EMDR, I didn't do the intensive EMDR like
yeah,
you're recommending, but even just doing the once a week EMDR, I think it took me about 2 months to process through that PTSD. So big fan of the intensive model. I've tried both. I love that you are bringing this through and sharing this not only with our audience, but with parents all over the world. Is there anything that parents could do right now while listening to us talk that could help them begin to heal today? Would you have any recommendations on that?
No.
Okay, we're being honest, guys. We're being
Yeah,
honest.
yeah, because I mean, are there behaviors you can do that are better than not? Yes, and of course, when we work with our clients, we talk about behaviors also. We say, well, what are the challenges with your kids, or what are the challenges in your marriage or in your life, and what can you do to get a better handle on that? Of course, we do that too, because people live in the real world.
Right.
But in terms of the healing from the emotional wounds, that's not a thing you can just go and do in some little way. There are specialized procedures for that. You want to work with a professional and go through the steps.
Awesome. I'm so grateful I asked that question. um,
That being said, now I'm going to contradict myself. Um, we have a free gift as part of this,
mhm.
and the free gift is a book I wrote for regular people. Most of my books until now have been for mental health professionals, but I wrote one recently, Slaying the Dragon, um, teaching people how to go through the steps in healing. And there are things you can do yourself, and there's other things you should be doing with a professional.
Mhm.
But there certainly are things you can do yourself, and people can read the ebook and get some ideas about that.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So you usually sell this book in the marketplace and you're offering it to our viewers today for free. I'm super grateful for that opportunity. Let's talk a little bit about what the benefits are of reading this book. If I go to your website right now and I grab this free gift, what can I expect?
Well, you can expect to learn about the impact of trauma and loss. There's a series of guided exercises so you can look at yourself and ask yourself, is this something that applies to me or not? And if so,
Mm-hmm.
how does it apply? How does it affect me? I'm basically teaching you the same things I teach the therapists.
Mm.
Um, and so one thing is you can figure out for yourself, does this apply to me? And if so, how? How is this stuff affecting me? What are my goals? Who do I want to be? How do I want to be? And what are the steps of getting there? And these exercises will take you through the step by step. Some of it you can do yourself. Some of it you ought to do with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
People get master's degrees and doctorates and they get specialized training. Take advantage of that. Your life and your family's life, your children's life is worth your best investment. Um, and the book will guide you into how to find the right people to help you do what you're trying to do for the places you do need help.
That sounds amazing. All right, everybody. The link below to grab Ricky's free gift, Slaying the Dragon, is right below this video. So all you need to do is click the link, no strings attached, enter your name and your email address, and Ricky and his team will personally deliver that ebook to you so you can start revolutionizing your inner world and become a more peaceful parent and a more peaceful human being and just have so much more ease and flow and grace in your life. I'm super excited for you to get your hands on this book. So go ahead and click the link right now. Before we say goodbye for now, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Well, I'm just so happy that you invited me because um, parents are so important. You know, everybody's got stuff.
Yeah.
It's just how it is. We've all got stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the moment that you're a parent, people tend to reach deeper and try harder because the stakes are so high. And so that's why I'm so pleased to be part of this conversation because we have something that works so well, and I want people to know about it.
Absolutely. Parents, I think, are just so, God bless you all for signing up for that duty and for sharing your love unconditionally and for raising these future leaders and healers and teachers and and adults on this planet. And thank you so much for tuning in today, so that we can help you become an even better human being than you already are. Just showing up today and having the courage to make this time for yourself and spending your time watching somebody like Ricky and grabbing his free gift. It just, thank you for being a parent, and thank you for doing all that you can do to be even better at what you do. And from the bottom of my heart, I'm just so grateful to also be a part of your world in this conversation, like Ricky said. Ricky, thank you so much for sharing all about your work and the work that you're doing in the world. It's just so important and so vital. And I'm emotional right now. So everybody grab the free gift, and stay tuned for our next interview, which will be coming to your inbox soon. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Thank you too, and do good.
Yes, we're all doing great. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.